Nonverbal signaling. Take one. Thank you. I'm getting old. What's up, folks? Welcome back to the Orion Training Group YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking about nonverbal signaling, the most requested video I've probably ever had, despite the fact that we do it in every other video, and with context clues you could have gleaned all of the signals. But I know that most of you probably failed the PSAT and the ACT and all those other IQ tests and stuff. So instead we're going to give you the answers to the test. This is the kind of thing we cover in the first hour of our intro course. It's not proprietary. We didn't make it up, but there are certain things that we teach certain ways for a certain reason, so we'll go through that just like you were in one of our intro classes. What we're not going to do though in our intro class is wear helmets, show you white light, show you IR, so you're actually getting a pretty special demo here because we're going to go through all the barriers, as Will would call it, which basically means I can see daylight, I can't see so I turn my white light on, I can't see so I'm using nods. And that's going to be the same signals throughout. We just want to demo some of the differences, the how and the why. So the first level of signaling is your body posture. Then it's kind of the way you're standing. Demo partner here, Steven, if he was just point your gun at the door, right? He's what we call bird dogging. That tells me, that posture tells me he's looking at something, he's got work. All right, and just assume a relaxed posture, let the gun down. Right? He's like, I could go. And then he could be like a truly safe posture if I walked in front of him and he's not gonna muzzle me. That truly means like that's passive. He's like, no, you go ahead, boss, right? So those sort of positions of like, I'm about to get it, it's all right, and I'm just really relaxed, are the three things that we really see in class a lot. We really want you to be either bird dogging on something like it's time to go or in that relaxed position. Now, what do we call those positions with the weapon? This is the scanning position, right? I'm looking, I'm scanning. Bird dogging is just like I'm about to do whatever the next thing is, I'm dialed in. And then a safe position or a I don't have any work position would be the high or the low port. So low port, I like to pin the weapon to a part of my body. In this case, the way this is set up, I'm taking my forearm and I'm touching my belt setup with it. And then the high port, similar. Trying to mess my mic up here. I'm going to take the optic and I'm going to touch a portion of my kit or my chest with it. So from here, the gun is, like I could walk right up to Steven, not muzzle him in this position, just like if I was in this position. And we can be in the stack or whatever else. How we apply that would be sort of the I go or you go methodology. If Steven and I ended up in a crisscross on this door, and we're both bird dogged in there, and I assume this position, obviously I'm letting him go first. And that's pretty much it. My body posture is saying, hey, you go ahead, your weapon is oriented to a threat, I am giving you clearance to go because you can walk in front now, my muzzle's not in the way. So that's a really simple way to put those two signals together. And you're like, okay, cool, Jared. What if I'm behind Steven? How would I signal? Well, now we know that he needs a second man to go in that room, so what can I do? Well, there's a few methods. The Navy likes to grab right below the butt cheek. We won't go into why, but you probably understand. The old school Marine Corps used to do a little butt tap, but that kind of feels like when you bump into people, so we don't want to do that either. We don't want to do a tap on the shoulder because this is, hey buddy, I'm with you, and then I'm looking around for what's next, and pew, he's in the room. Really, you don't want to touch the guy in front of you much at all if you don't have to. What we prefer, what's easiest, is to just squeeze the tricep. Tells him that I'm with him, and he can rock and roll, he can relax. So if I'm behind somebody, tricep squeeze. If I'm across from them, body posture. And that's just to let them go or say, hey, I'm with you. And that's kind of the first level of communication. What about if there's something more complicated going on? How would we ask someone for permission to go? So if he and I are both locked in on this door, and I want to go first, instead of saying like, hey, Steven, can I go first? I can simply non-verbally ask one time, and he should open. There shouldn't be any delay after that. And we'll go ahead and do an intro on this. I'll ask, he'll open, and we'll hit it, and there shouldn't be any delay, okay? Pretty straightforward, didn't have to talk, okay? So we've done, how do we say we're going? Or how do we say, hey, you go, or I'm with you, and then how do we say we want to go? So we've got squeezing, we've got muzzles opening. Some people call it opening the gate, unblocking, clearing a path. None of that matters. It's very simply just, I'm in a submissive posture here. You got it, you go, right? Or you ask, and then the other person assumes that submissive posture. So it's super, super straightforward stuff. What if we need to switch what we're looking at? And that would be more of an example like what we got over here, this opposing dead spaces. Now there's a couple ways to do this. We can either signal it with our muzzles like we've been doing, or we can call it. Calling it can be verbal, it can be body posture, but switch spots with me here, Steven. First one we'll do is verbal, even though it's a nonverbal signaling video. We'll just call it a brush. There is plugging, plating, masking, body blocking. Any other terms for it I missed? I think that's the main ones. All it means is he's going to cover what I would be exposed to if I rounded this corner, and I'm going to cover what he would be exposed to as he rounded this corner. And if I just say with no muzzle movement and nothing else, I'm just like, hey, let's brush. And then we start moving. Super straightforward. If I'm trying not to talk, I can also just move my body toward him. And if we think about the muzzles and losing our shot, let's just freeze where you're at, Steven, and I keep walking towards you, we've lost our shots, right? We've violated some safety rules here. So how do I non-verbally communicate without squeezing him, saying anything, wagging the muzzle, or any of that? Well, it's part of our SOP that the tips can't touch, right? We can't cross streams. His muzzle is going to repel away from mine like they're the same polarity magnet. If you got any homeschoolers watching this, you'll know what I mean. As I walk towards him, his muzzle pushes away, and we roll. Super straightforward. Now, if that's not enough for you and you want to give a challenge and response almost, this method is called Maestro, Mozart, barrel release, barrel wag, muzzle release. Me and Jason were joking yesterday we should call it like the Beethoven or something. We got to come up with a cool name because everyone names everything. The reason some people call it Maestro or Mozart is because it looks like, if you have the two barrels, like a conductor's sticks, right? They're moving in sync. And that's what it is. We're taking our two brains that are moving on separate channels and we're coordinating our movements with muzzle wagging tips. So if Steven says, hey bro, I need to look at what you're looking at and you need to look at what I'm looking at, we're going to switch places in this cross coverage, he can raise his barrel up about 10 degrees and wait. Once he gets to that position and I raise up and meet, we don't have to stay here for any longer. We just turn and look at what we're looking at next. So if we did that full speed, again, we don't have to talk. We get to this position and we're there. Super straightforward. So that would be if we need to oppose and switch. So we've got, what do I do if I want you to go? What do I do if I want to go? What do I want to do if we need to go together? And those are really the three main things that we teach for nonverbals in a course. Is there anything else that we should talk about nonverbally that y'all can think of? It's pretty much the meat and potatoes of a day one class, right? We're not going to get into hallways because we don't teach that on day one anyway. All right, so what if we did it white light? All right, so now we're going to do the same signals non-verbally, and we'll talk about the white light being a portion of the signal. And there's something that we didn't talk about on the last one that will be better demonstrated here, so I'll just pretend I intentionally saved it for this part of the video. So we're in that bird dog position, our light's on, and he sees my light go down and away. That automatically tells him to go. Pretty straightforward. So if we're doing this truly where y'all, we can't see anything but where our white light's at, it's very easy to see this or to see this, because I can also do the gate upward. That's super, super self-explanatory. Now, if his light is on and I'm looking here and I give him a squeeze, that's no different. That doesn't change under any sort of lighting condition. A squeeze is a squeeze is a squeeze. Okay? Let's go show him that other one over here in the cross coverage. I should see not only the glow from the end of his light if we're truly looking across each other, but I should also feel some of that light. So go ahead and send it across. I see this right here, and truly if we had no light going on in the room, you probably could see it better. So it's the same thing. He can see my light, I can see his. All right, and then we'll do the one where we just repel off of each other. It's a brush without saying brush. So as my light gets to where it's starting to illuminate his barrel, we switch over. It's the easiest thing in the world. You want to show him that again? Yep. Truly dark. So both our lights are on. I decide to give it to him. He sees that, and we're moving. All right, now something that we're going to do in here, I'll tell you what, Mitch, why don't you go and move it about right here where you can see the middle of that room. Let's say we hit our sectors, we scanned, right? We come over to where we see a meter off our buddy's muzzles, our lights are on. There's no work. Pointing it up or pointing it down is a clear indicator of no work, right? Again, the body posture of my gun's pointed at the ground or my gun's pointed at the ceiling says, hey, I don't have anything else in my sector. Again, we don't have to talk about anything, right? There it is. Alrighty. Let's talk about asking. So, assume the positions. If we're here and I ask, that light moving up and down is what's showing him under white light that I want to go first. And we already talked about over here as well. Let's do it one more time for him. Truly illuminating. You see how I can see this? He's illuminating across my muzzle. And if I start to move toward him, it pushes us away. All right? Same thing is true of the Mozart, Maestro, body block, plug, plate, brush, mask, all that crap. Straightforward. So what we do in, like, I can see visible spectrum environments, what we do in the dark with the white light hasn't changed. So now what we're going to do is show you under night vision that it's all the same stuff. All right, so now we're going to do the exact same thing, but we're going to do it under night vision. As you have been seeing, we're stacked up on this door in a split stack. He can see the tip of my muzzle, I can see the tip of his muzzle, and if he turns on his IR device, I should be able to see a little glow, and I do. So whenever I drop my muzzle, I can actually put the laser outside here if I want to get even more data. You can see that, huh, Steven? On the edge of your door frame. And I drop it down. That tells him he can go. And it's the same thing. When that light goes up or that laser goes up, typically that shows pretty well a little bit of a halo over our heads. And it's saying, hey, look, there's no more work in my area, right? Just like we showed under the white light or just body position that's observable with nothing else going on. What if I want to go first? And we don't have to actually make our entry on this one. So we're set up. I want to go first this time. I ask and he moves his gun away. It'd be the same thing if he asked me. So I'm not looking at him, I'm looking at his laser on the wall, and he asked to go first. I go, oh, okay, cool, he moved. Super straightforward stuff, right? Same thing we did before. Let's show him that dead space. So we'll do the first one where we don't talk about it and we're just gonna brush shoulders. And again, I'm looking out and across him. What can I see if he turns his light and laser on? I can see the glow off the end of his muzzle. And a lot of times you're going to be looking around a lot more under night vision. I see this beam here, right? What does this tell me when I see this beam across me or something on the wall next to me? Right? We're not playing Zelda, right? That's not my fairy godmother or whatever. That is a laser coming out of a muzzle. I should probably not walk across that. So from here, I see that. I'm going to just move and start moving over, and it's going to make us switch our lasers. Now, that's an SOP thing, and some people don't like that, where you don't touch. So one layer you can add to this under night vision, or really in any of those methods, is I'm going to go touch his shoulder first. Two things that gives us under night vision that we don't necessarily have to have in other conditions. I physically know where he is, and I'm not going to outrun him. And also, I can only see 40 degrees of field of vision out of these things. So if I do outrun or I do misinterpret his signal, I'm a little bit more likely to get muzzled. So we'll do the same thing, and this time, instead of moving forward to push his muzzle away, I'm going to move laterally and touch his shoulder, and now we're moving together. And that's truly the brush, because we're physically brushing. Jason likes to teach it as weenus to weenus. So I take my elbow, and I am physically not going to move across the space until I touch elbow to elbow with him, and now it's very simultaneous. All right, now let's do the muzzle wag version. I believe one of our instructors calls this the cell tower. I forgot. So you send a text message, it hits the cell tower, and it sends it out, right? Whatever. There's a lot of goofy ways you can talk about this shit, okay? I can see the tip of his muzzle. If he raises it that 10 degrees, I raise mine, and we switch. pretty straightforward stuff. So that's pretty much the curriculum for day one stuff, but we also showed it to you white light and under night vision. The whole reason that we designed the curriculum this way is no matter what barrier you're working with, you keep your SOPs the same. So it's a tricep squeeze, which we didn't show under nods, but guess what? I would just be like, there's his tricep, and squeeze it. The tricep squeeze, the barrel release, the asking permission, the brushing, and then the muzzle wagging to split opposing danger areas. It's pretty straightforward stuff. And outside of hallways, it's really not that complicated. In a hallway, it changes a little bit, but we pretty much never cover that on day one. There's so much to learn just from principles and fundamentals that inform room-to-room movement, mitigating dead space, target ID, and all that kind of stuff, that we really don't have to talk about anything else on day one. It's enough information. So if you're watching this in prep for a course, if you're watching it as a refresher, if you're just curious about this stuff, we appreciate that you're here. I would suggest that you go get training on this kind of thing. Go take a course, doesn't have to be ours. Lots of people teach good courses on this. Just vet your instructor, make sure you know their background. And if they have operational experience under night vision, that's a big plus. And spend your money wisely. You already have a used car on your face. You might as well go out and get some training on how to use it. Like we always say, repent, turn to Christ, eat some red meat, go outside, ground, call your mom, tell her you love her. Thanks for watching.